Yes, just like that. Just as it started like that, so it is over, apparently. The coup in Russia is over. The whole thing has just now fizzled, and don't for a moment think that it's because it was inconsequential or that it was not a big deal. We're seeing reports and videos of units and civilians digging up the highways between Moscow and Rostov. Prigozhin was actually moving Wagner troops to Moscow. It was moving them towards. There was gun battles happening between regular army Russian soldiers and the Wagner Group soldiers. Serious issues. They actually took over a city and set up defensive positions in the city. Big deal. Chechen fighters actually were on a convoy of Chechen fighters actually were coming towards Wagner in order to attack the the elements of the 25,000. Apparently, elements of the Wagner Group were not participating in this. They were just like, heck no, not going to do that. And so what has happened over the last few hours here is we have now received word that Lukashenko from Belarus, the president of Belarus, came to negotiate with Prigozhin in Rostov, and they came to a deal. Prigozhin agreed to de-escalate the situation, and then out came a deal that was made. Prigozhin would go into essentially exile to Belarus himself. His fighters would stay on the ground, and that his fighters would re-enter Ukraine. So the units that had decided to go up against the Russian military were participating in this coup, so to speak. They were agreed to go back into Ukraine and go back to fighting. Now, units of the Wagner Group that did not participate in this, individual soldiers and they're all mercenaries, but the units that chose not to do this, they were said that they were going to be essentially rewarded with direct Russian army contracts. Now, I'm not sure exactly if that means that they would become Russian soldiers or whether that means that they're going to get contracts with the Ministry of Defense to continue their fighting in Ukraine, or whether that means that they just get contracting jobs, or whether they get positions as soldiers. But then the Wagner Group soldiers or mercenaries that chose to fight against Russian soldiers are going to be given a general amnesty. So they're not going to have any charges placed against them. They're just going to go back into the fight. So it looks like this whole big hubbub, and mark my words, it is big. I mean, the people were fleeing Moscow. People literally were fleeing Moscow. The gas pumps were running out of gas. Stores were running out of food because people were panicking, going to the stores, trying to buy whatever they could so they could flee. Gas stations ran dry almost instantly. We're seeing, like I said, highways were being dug up. There are videos out there of that they dug ditches in the highways. There are other barricades. They were using trucks, other equipment to block the roads to prevent the Wagner Group from moving on Moscow. So big news. Russia was kind of freaking out, and boom, it's over, just done. What's the continuing effect of this? I think it kind of goes back to the status quo. Given Russia's past, Prigozhin is probably going to quietly die a silent death when FSB visits him in the middle of the night. Maybe a month or 2 months from now, when he's out of the news, he's going to just go kablooey. He's going to, something's going to, there's going to be a gas leak in his home, or he's going to be in an automobile accident. Something that won't sound too nefarious. It will be a warning to other people, but at the same time, you can't quite prove that it was an assassination. That's probably what's going to happen to him. He definitely crossed the powers that be. There is word that Turkey was kind of brought into this. Also, Lukashenko from Belarus was brought into this because Prigozhin apparently would only speak to Lukashenko. Putin made a phone call to Lukashenko. Lukashenko flew to Rostov and actually met with Prigozhin, and that was where they hammered out this deal. I think in general, Prigozhin was not really anti-Russia, he kept saying that he was very patriotic and loyal to the country, but it's these guys inside the military that were undermining the war effort and doing all this kind of stuff like that. And so now some people were directly asked whether there were any changes in the leadership structure of the Russian army as part of this agreement. And they said that they are not aware of any changes in the structure of the Russian army. Now, could that have been part of the deal, that certain officers were going to be basically taken out of the leadership structure, either, permanently with their cars going kablooey, or whether it's just them getting transferred to a different commands? There's different levels of that, of course, but Prigozhin, while he had pull because of their successes in Ukraine, I think that it's generally seen that he was still an outsider. He was still kind of a dirty guy that they're still kind of embarrassed that they had to rely on the regular Russian army officers and the people, the deep state of Russia, kind of embarrassed by this guy and saw him as ungovernable. Who knows when he could possibly go off the handle, which he just did go off the handle. And so I think that they don't want any part in him. So I don't think that he was able to cut a very strong deal. I think he realized that marching on Moscow was just like, that wasn't going to happen. That was just insane. That wasn't really a plan. He was caught in a pickle. What to do, and he realized that the longer he delayed, the worse the terms were going to get for him. So, and I think Putin at the same time realizing that he just did not need this on his plate at all right now, and so he cut a rather generous deal with Prigozhin to give him immunity and also to quietly get him off the stage and get the Wagner troops back into Ukraine fighting again, because I think that in the coming months, there's some really big things that are going to be coming down the pikes. The BRICS currency coming out in just 2 months, and then we have basically the Ukrainian offensive. Counteroffensive seems to be just dead in its tracks. It's grinding to a halt. The Ukrainian forces are just burning themselves out. And then the question is, what happens next? Do the Russians go back on the offensive? Or are they going to open a new front? Is Belarus going to come back down for Kiev again? Is what's going to happen next? We don't know. But whatever is going to happen next, Putin and Russia probably didn't need any of this sideshow going on while the Ukrainians were celebrating in the streets that this is going on. I think the Russians realized that this was truly devastating for the morale. Soldiers were not really sure where their loyalties were. Wagner troops reportedly coming up against Russian conscripts, and the Russian conscripts just being like, we don't think you're an enemy, so we're not going to shoot at you, and letting their troops pass when they were ordered to stop them, and just not really sure what's going on with that. The Wagner Wagner mercenaries, not sure what to do there either. Some of them decided that their loyalties were with Russia. Some of them were like, let's tear down the government. And so a lot of serious things happening there. So will this completely blow over and be gone? I think the Russians are going to try to make it that way. And I think a lot of the guys on the front lines, I think a lot of the Wagner guys and stuff like that, they may be upset about things, but I think that they're going to be kind of relieved that this is over, that this isn't going to end things. This is just going to go back to the way things were. I think that's kind of going to be a relief for a lot of the people on the ground. But don't expect some of these people in mid-level commands, and like I said, even Prigozhin himself, to not mysteriously die of suspicious causes in the next number of months, quietly and off the side. So let us know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below of what you're seeing out there, what you think this is all about. Was this really just, was this the CIA paying Prigozhin to do this thing? What exactly was going on here, and why did it end the way it did? So let me know what you guys are thinking. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit the like button if you've enjoyed the content, if you appreciate these updates, and also if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.